Hi, you're joining me, Esther, from Stampin Style Creations for another Stamp Around UK video hop. This month's challenge was to use a one stamp set in 4 ways, so I couldn't resist using this new stamp set, Field of Flowers, which is going to be available from June 2020. And I'm limiting my colour palette to Soft Seafoam, Pear Pizzazz and Pretty Peacock, and adding in Black Memento. So I wanted to try this technique where you spritz the block and create a water-coloured effect on your paper. So I'm using shimmer white cardstock and just using the lightest colour at the top and then adding in the green. Now, I didn't want to merge my colours too much at the bottom, so I'm just going to use my chamois to wipe off a strip along the bottom before I add the Pretty Peacock. Getting myself ready for water and spraying, just clearing my surface and spritzing about 9 times. So I just waited for the colour to kind of make water droplets on the block. It might have been too much in hindsight, but you work with it because you never quite know what you're going to get. Press the block against your shimmer white cardstock and you can see the ink emerging, and I'm left with this pool at the top. So I'm tapping the ink down because I want it all to stay in that nice rectangular shape. So giving it a tap, and then I'm left with these little drops. I tried blowing on it and it just helps to disperse those last few drops into the paper. Using my stamparatus, which is a stamp positioning tool, you lay down your stamps first where you want them to go, adding in a couple of sentiments to the left side. And then you lift these up with the window, adding in the dragonfly to add extra detail. So I'm going in with Black Memento ink to ink this up, and then you can just push it all down into place. The great thing about this is if you miss a spot, you can go back in again and it would have stamped in the same place. I'm using a double layer of the Pretty Peacock with the Pear Pizzazz, and as you can see I cut out the centre. This just helps to cut down the bulk and to save on card. And that's card 1 done. Now for card number 2. I really like this meadow image, and I'm using a 1 1/4 inch piece of sticky post-it note across my page to mask off the centre of my card. I'm just inking the top half of the stamp. Now you might find they are a little bit sticky initially. The photopolymer ones are a bit sticky when you're using new stamps, but it does tend to get less sticky the more you use them. As you can see, my magnet was in the way there, so just move that out the way in order to make sure that you get the stamped image. So after the Pear Pizzazz, I'm going in with the Pretty Peacock, so you've got this lovely ombre effect. I used my chamois just to mix those 2 colours, so there wasn't a straight line across my different colours. Flipping it over, and before I put the plate down, I'm just trying to eyeball it to figure out where the stamp would land on my page and just secure that into position. So I've gone ahead and done the same technique of ombre effect with the stamparatus, inking each colour from the light to dark, one at a time. In order for the border to show up, I'm using my blending brush and the Pretty Peacock to go all the way across the edges of my border of the masking, so that you get a nice crisp clean image when you lift up the paper. Just adding in a few of the flowers in my meadow and using Soft Seafoam to add a few flowers in. Now I think these probably do match exactly onto the leaves, but I've just gone for stamping them randomly onto my image. And the bit that I love, the bit where you take the masking off. As you can see, I've got a tiny bit of black ink in the corner, and so I'm using my Trio corner punch. With this Trio corner punch, you just put your palm in the middle, and it's a really nice easy movement going in with the opposite direction, so I've got 2 diagonal rounded off corners. And in fact, I quite like the look of this. It adds just an extra bit of detail to the card in a simple way. Using that bigger sentiment always in the centre, and you can mix and match these with the other sentiments, and just using the different colours to make them stand out. Mounting that on Pretty Peacock, you can really see how the corners stand out. For card number 3, I've gone ahead and used our rectangle stitch framelit dies to create another mask, and I wanted this time to be able to blend in the centre. So I've tacked down my paper and I'm just using the blender brushes to add some colour on the inside. Then you get a nice crisp edge to work with. I'm using the bigger leaves out of the stamp set and laying down the image 3 times, so you've got a 3 generation stamping. And then I'm going to do what's called the rock and roll technique. So use a lighter colour and a darker colour. So going in with the Pear Pizzazz and the Pretty Peacock, start with your lighter colour, ink that up, and then you literally roll the stamp around so you've got 2 tones of colour. So in order just to blend these colours in, I'm using my brush again and just tapping lightly over both colours so you don't have this line where it separates both the light and the dark colour. And I managed to go in 3 times with this also. So there's enough ink on that stamp to be able to get the lighter shades, and it just fits in perfectly where I stamped the leaves and the stems. So just showing you that technique again, go in with the lighter one, and you're literally bending the stamp so you want all the edges. It kind of goes against everything that we teach people to do when they're stamping, not to get ink along the edge, but for this particular technique, this is what you want to do. If you don't have a blending brush, you can use a sponge or maybe even your chamois to tap it lightly. I managed to smudge the bottom of my paper, so I'm trying to disguise this. I keep getting smudges on these projects, so I just keep using those images to fill in around the borders just to add some more detail. I felt it just looked a little bit funny with the flowers all at the bottom, so I'm using soft sea foam to add some more detail to the top. I'm mindful that you might be able to hear the birds in the garden. Going in with a sentiment on a strip of white and then cutting it out with a classic label punch. This time I'm sticking it onto a piece of Pear Pizzazz. And that's card number 3. And you can see how that technique works really well. For my next one, I wanted to use that lovely meadow kind of stamp again, and using the lighter colour and just doing 3 generation stamping again, this time working up the paper. So then going with Pear Pizzazz, but positioning it in a slightly different place than I did with the first set, so you've got a kind of nice staggered look in the field. Then I'm going with Pretty Peacock for the darkest colour towards the bottom, still leaving a gap because I'm going to come in with the black afterwards. Again, same technique, just keep stamping upwards up the page. So same again with the black, just stamp it off again so that you've got nice shadows on either side of those images. After I finished, I just felt like it needed something. So I add my 2-inch circle punch and just taking a bit of washi tape and trying to get a bit of tacky off just to adhere my circle in the middle of the page. And I'm just going to go in with a blender brush to go around the edge to highlight the centre of the circle. So just using a bit of Pear Pizzazz and then just adding a bit of Pretty Peacock to make it stand out a little bit more, just using what's in my lid. So I don't want it too dark, but I do want it to stand out. Next, I just felt that the bottom looked a bit too white, a bit too stark, so I'm going in with the Pretty Peacock and just filling in that colour at the bottom half of the page. The trouble with doing that is I gave myself some more smudges, so let's hide that over with a dragonfly or 2 or perhaps 3. I also have a few more smudges at the edge of the paper on the left and the right, so I've got to figure out how I'm going to cover those over. I'm using the stem with the leaf again, and I'm just bringing in the leaf, just inking up the leaf portion to create almost a scene really, that like as if you're looking through some trees or some bushes. So going round and just building up that image around the edge. Then getting in my brush and just creating what's called a vignette, so you're just adding a bit more darker shade around the edge to focus on the centre. Then once again mounting this on a piece of hair pizzazz. Make sure you've got your card up the right way. That was close, I nearly got it upside down. And there you go, there's card number 4. I hope you've enjoyed these techniques and all the 4 cards. Please do follow the links to find out what everyone else has been up to with their projects this month. So using one stamp set but 4 different ways. I hope it inspires you to go and get creative. Please do subscribe to my channel if you're not already. If you've enjoyed this video, you can show your appreciation by giving a thumbs up and leaving me a comment. Here are all the 4 cards that I've made in order, and if you want, you can pick out your favourite and let me know in the comments below. Thank you so much for joining me. Take care, and I hope you have a good day. Thanks very much. Bye.